Well, if you've just joined us, we are in our very first out on farm interview for Sarah's Country. And I tell you what, I've enjoyed being out on the road so much. I feel in 2021 we may need to do a few more of these because, of course, this is where it all begins and stops and starts, isn't it? Behind the farm gate. Myself and Joel last week were out filming on behalf of Zimmatic for the Trailblazer Sustainable Irrigation Awards. And we're here in the home of the New Zealand winners, Ted and Sue Rollinson. So Ted, can you give us a bit of an idea for our listeners and viewers, where we are situated in New Zealand and the sort of operation that you're running here, the size and the scale of it as well?
Well, we are 75 k's south of Christchurch. The big salmon on the main road, we're exactly halfway between there and the sea, a little place called Dorrie, and we're on a private little irrigation scheme that covers 1,055 hectares, and it's 4 farms and we're one of those.
So it's been an incredible journey from Murchison to Canterbury back in the early 80s. What's it been like?
It's always a challenge. I love challenges. I've always told the children there's no stress in life. It's a challenge. And if you meet your challenge, you'll be happy with yourself. And Ted wanted to get bigger, and we wanted to be able to help other families into dairying so that they can have their own assets in the end. And when people have their own assets or take ownership, everybody's happy in the community. And I love the community feeling. We don't have it so much now because there's not many farm owners. It's mainly share milkers and contract milkers. Share milkers are really good at staying in the area for a long time. So it's a new concept of contract milkers and share milkers in dairying because it was always farm owners. And then we just had managers and they'd move after 2 or 3 years. But we're going back to the community ownership, which is really good. I just like being around the dairy. I just love being in the country. We do have a house in Christchurch and everybody says, oh, when are you moving? I'm not. I'm here forever. And I just want to stay here. And so do the children. They all grew up. They've all got dairy farms themselves. So it's in our blood.
I mean, Ted, there must have been a lot of people thinking that you were mad back in the day, and a lot of courage to go dairying when no one else was in this particular area. But it was backed by research, yes.
Yes, well, the Winsmore Research Station showed that dairying in Canterbury was very, very viable and the return on the assets was really good. So that gave us a lot of confidence, and John Rodley and Don McDonald, the 2 previous farmers that were here before me, I watched their write-ups, and it was very obvious that irrigation and fertiliser, a bit of nitrogen, hot nor'west weather, grew grass, and the cows just milked because they love sunshine.
40 years ago, you started here with simple border dike irrigation, and irrigation's come so far. Can you explain that journey?
Well, Canterbury is not successful with dairy without water. If you went back in history, the rabbits would have to carry their lunch across the plains here to have enough food to get to the end of the day. So they've gone from that to irrigation water to dairy, and it's horticulture around here as well. So water is the kingpin for Canterbury. And a lot of people talk about the expense of water, but it is so minuscule, the expense compared to with the returns that we get from it.
See, there's so much misunderstanding, isn't there, with regards to, bringing the irrigation and it's going to intensify beyond, all environmental outcomes, but simply not really that true.
Well, irrigation and nitrogen applications are a great combination, and we manage our water and we don't over-irrigate. We don't leach the nitrogen out through the soil like the perception is, because it's all managed, versus a heavy rainfall is the only exception, and we don't get many of those in Canterbury. So the flood irrigation, not the flood, but the pivot irrigation is the best plan we can have for managing the environment.
Can you tell us a bit about the technology and how far it's come in irrigation?
Well, Sue and I have built the infrastructure on the farm, and Tom actually manages the technology and that sort of thing. He would actually be better to ask than me. So somewhere along the line, you better ask him.
You mentioned Tom there. He's an integral part of the operation as your share milker, and of course, integral to this winning of the awards.
Yes, but particularly Tom's been here 11 years now, and that's a credit to him, but it's a credit to both of us really, because we get on really well together, and that works a dream. And as I said, we've built the infrastructure, and Tom's managed the farm, and he manages the irrigation, and there's a lot of technology involved with that, and he works through that and does particularly well.
Ted and Sue, it's been incredible travelling around the country and meeting the finalists from Central Otago through to Canterbury. But learning more about how amazing variable rate irrigation is. Can you explain to our listeners and viewers a little bit more about that?
Well, VRI, that's the variable rate irrigation, is really important for keeping the water off cow races. We stop the water when it's going over the effluent pond, and we stop it going over the calf sheds. And when we cultivate a paddock and put it in new grass, if it doesn't need water, Tom actually just clicks on the VRI and excludes that whole paddock when the pivot's going over. So it's a very important piece of technology for us to use to stop any nitrate leaching and to conserve water.
So, how important is it for you and your family's sustainability in farming to ensure that you have that balance between, the economics of farming and, of course, the environmental?
We actually couldn't work if we didn't work along those lines, because all of us on the farm, Tom and Leanne and Ted and I, are very conscious of our environment, and we need to leave it in and guide it through to an end that is sustainable for years and years and years to come, because there's no point of reaping the ground when there's nothing to return. So we have to do it. It's not a case of why we do it. We just have to do it so that everybody survives. Mm. It's not just us, it's the community, it's our families, it's everybody.
My mission statement is to be sustainable, to be economical, and to be healthy. And there are three words that actually mean a lot. We have to be sustainable for the environment because that's regulated now, and we understand that fully, to keep the rivers clean and that sort of thing. And we have to be economical, otherwise we wouldn't succeed. So that's extremely important as well. We've got kids to rear, and fortunately now we've got 3 kids, and the whole 3 of them have got dairy farms now. And they've all delivered grandkids, so that's very important. And to be healthy, that's very good for us at our age, that we have to be healthy. But we have to be healthy for the farm, and healthy for the rivers, and healthy for all that as well. So that's how I see my submission statement.
Ted, I'm going to utilise the opportunity, of course, in all of your decades of farming, to source your opinion, I think, on the future of farming and some inspiration to the next generation that we can actually achieve these outcomes in such a heavily regulated environment.
Yes, well, I think dairying's got a huge future for producing food for New Zealand and product for export for this country. And it's proven it in the past, and it's going to continue it in the future. We certainly need some more tools in our toolbox to help the environment. And I can give some examples. The NUMBV, that's a measurement of nitrogen or nitrates in urine for cows. Through breeding, they now know they can reduce that by 28%. But if we could have had some gene editing or something along that line, we would make huge progress on that in a very short time. Another example is New Zealand produced a ryegrass some 20 years ago that reduces nitrate leaching and reduces greenhouse gases Unfortunately, it's a GM grass and we're not allowed to use it. So science has moved a heck of a long way over the last 20 years, but the conversation in the community and the country has not moved at all. And all I'm suggesting is it's time for a debate on that, because if we could have some of those tools, dairying could make some big increases in helping the environment.
This is Sarah's Country.